All righty. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself today. It's, I don't know if, Prof, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Could you hear the music in the background earlier?
No, I couldn't.
Okay. Um, I hope it was able to capture the music. I was playing Land of Our Birth. We pledge to thee our love and toil in the years to be, when we are grown and take our place as men and women in our race. All right. On that note, I want to welcome all of you to today's Analyze This. It's a bit emotional, but as we believe, leaders would have to be able to learn to tame their emotions and speak from a place of intelligence. So we're going to try very hard to do that. We have to. We have no option. We have to. Um, Today, we are going to be talking about the state of our land and our river bodies in Ghana. It's Before we go on, let me say our usual mantra: creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. Inventions and creativity are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. So educate yourself, enlighten yourself, and be able to create and invent. Again, on this platform, we don't entertain insult. As I just said, leaders had to learn to tame their emotions. Insult always comes from a place of emotions, and it does not solve issues. It rather aggravates people, and it makes matters worse because there is a statement in Ghana where they say "Usunami anymore." So that's the state you put people in when you insult them. Alrighty. On that note, land of our birth. I watched a couple of videos this week, and it was crazy. One of them happens to be what's the name of this radio station? Oh, the one I sent to you.
Yeah,
Not Peace FM.
yeah. This one is in Kumasi, I think.
Yes, I forgot the name of the radio station, but Okatechie, yes. Visited some areas to I believe from what I gathered from the video, he was gonna just do a report, live report from the places of whatchamacallit, mining, illegal mining. But he ended up doing citizens arrest. And that was what informed our discussion, or that's what's going to inform our discussions today. But before we move on to talk about the issue, Prof, introduce yourself and let's get it rolling.
My name is Kwajewa Frempong, and as usual, I am informed by what kind of society we want to build. If we have that kind of society in our mind, we already know how to get there. And if the actions that we are taking today will not get us to the kind of society that we are trying to build, it behoves on us to change our actions because the future that we are trying to build starts from today. We cannot expect a different outcome when we keep doing the things that we know for a fact will not bring us the future that we want. I would also like to reiterate the fact that anytime we are confronted with any issue as Africans, let's go back to our idioms, let's go back to our cultural references rather, let's go back to our proverbs, and we will know for a fact whether what we are doing will inure to our benefit or not. Nothing new is under the sun. Nothing new. We've been through these cycles before. It might not be exactly the same thing, but they speak to the same issues, and we need to learn from history. We cannot pretend we don't know. And for the most part, the solutions are staring us right in the face, and it just takes courage and the will to change the outcomes, and it is up to us to do that. Thank you.
It is up to us to do that. Give me 1 minute. I'm trying to post this on Facebook, and then we will continue. But like I said, I remember when we were kids in school, we learned the song, Land of Our Birth, we pledge to thee, our love and toil in the years to be. And when we are grown and take our places as men and women in our race, I believe that song speaks a lot. It has a lot to tell us. And I believe those of us who learned that song learned it as a pledge. For me, it is, or it was, a solemn pledge. Then I didn't understand the gravity and the depth of that music. I didn't understand it. I learned it. I loved it. But when I was in high school, that was when it dawned on me that this was not just any ordinary music. It was not just any ordinary song we learned, but it excuse me, it was a pledge and a solemn one as such. We were doing to our country, to our community, to our continent, and to the world at large. First to our community, and then to our country. It says, Land of our birth, we pledge to thee our love and toil in the years to be. And that is what brings me to the understanding. I'm gonna go digress a little bit on that leadership tangent, and then we'll come back to this water body thing. As Prof said, what kind of society are we building? And I keep asking myself, our politicians, the people we've entrusted our powers to, the people we've given our mandates to take decisions on our behalf in places of power, in governance and all that, do they really understand their role? Do they really, I mean, really understand their role? I was reading about understanding how the brain works, the dynamics of knowing and understanding. And the writer of that article, who happens to be a neurosurgeon, said something which really excited me. He said, the moment you gain understanding, it triggers creativity. So there is no way you will gain understanding and will not create. The moment your mind grasps understanding, the moment your mind, that light bulb turns on, bing, it kickstarts creativity. And so it brings me to the fact that our politicians, the people we've given our mandates to, do they really understand their responsibilities? Do they really understand what they are supposed to be doing? Yes, they might know what they are supposed to be doing. And according to that article, knowing is not the same as understanding. Knowing is a compartment of the brain that captures the information. And then there is a portion of the brain that will process. You would put that aspect of the brain into action. You, as a human being, will put that aspect of the brain into action by thinking, broaching, processing that information that you think you know or you have captured. You turn that information over and over and over in your mind. And then it gets into that compartment where it processes it to give you understanding. And the moment that understanding drops, you are fired and ready to go. Borrowing Barack Obama's words, you are fired and ready to go. You are ready for action because it kickstarts your creativity, the power to create. And so I believe the people we've given our mandates to, the people we've given the authority to govern the countries in Africa, don't understand the position they occupy. They don't understand the responsibilities given to them. They don't understand the role we've assigned to them. Because if they do, they will be creative enough to create the kind of environment, to create the kind of country, to create the kind of continent, to create the kind of society we have trusted them to create. But because they lack understanding, they don't even understand what leadership is. And that is why we are in the mess in which we are today. So, with that being said, as against what Prof just said, what kind of society, what kind of society do we want to create? What kind of society do we want to see? And I watched a couple of videos after I saw um, the Angel FM, Angel FM. Yeah. After I saw that video from Angel FM, I decided to watch a couple of videos on, and it's a mess. It's a mess. I remember when we were in school, we learned about a whole bunch of rivers, River Pra, River Ancobra, River Densu, and all that. And if you see the pictures, I'm not going to show them here because, like I said, this is very emotional and I don't want to add fuel to the fire. So you can watch it at home. Just go on YouTube, type the state of or the effect of illegal mining or the effect of galamsey on Ghana's water bodies. You're going to find it. It's easy. The moment you type it, it's going to pull. That's what I did. I typed it and it pulled out a whole bunch of videos for me. And one of the radio stations, I believe is Joy FM, I'm not too sure, stand to be corrected, sent one of the reporters out to go and do some investigations. And the guy went around some of the major rivers in Ghana and collected water from the rivers and bottled them up. And the guy exhibited them all on TV, on national TV, for people to see the state of the water bodies in our country. I read a few comments where people are talking about, oh, it is the Chinese people. Oh, it's the Chinese people. Prof, I can get out of here and come to your home and try to order people around. or come to your home, sit in your living room and put my feet on your coffee table and behave as if that is my home. And the moment I'm able to do that, it means the home I have entered in has no authority. That home has no leadership. Again, as Prof said, what kind of society, what kind of home would that be if I'm able to walk into somebody's home, sit in the person's living room, start flipping channels on the TV, start ordering food around, start ordering people around? What kind of home would that be? So I really don't even want to hear the issue about, oh, it is the Chinese people. I don't want to hear that. Because they never would have dared to do that within certain areas or even in certain countries. Nobody can come from any other country to the United States and mess up the water bodies and people will just look unconcerned. You dare not. There are certain rivers when you're getting close, they have signs. They tell you what you can do and what you cannot do by these river bodies. Some of them even have fish. They have all kinds of living creatures in the river bodies. And you can even feed. Sometimes some of the places they allow you to feed them. Some of the places they tell you do not feed them. And try to violate those signs. And you're going to see what's going to happen to you. The rivers represents the lifeblood of that community. That is the source of one, their livelihood. It's either a source of drinking water, a source of irrigation to their plants, a source of entertainment. I mean, the rivers or the water bodies in the communities serves a lot, serves just more than drinking. I remember one time I was talking to somebody on the phone, over the phone in Kumasi. And the person was, I think it was July 1st. That was when July 1st was a holiday. I believe it's no longer a holiday in Ghana now. I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's been changed with the Founders Day or whatever it is. You know, because July 1st was the Republic Day in Ghana and it was a holiday. I remember one time I was talking to somebody in Kumasi and the person told me, oh, it's a holiday and we're going to the beach. And I was like, oh, you in Accra? She said, no, we're going to the beach, Lake Busunchi. That is the source of entertainment for that community. So you can just imagine if you mess up that lake, when people want to have that beach experience, where do you expect them to go? When that community wants to have the beach experience, where do you expect them to go? And the most importantly, the drinking, that is the source of their drinking water. So how do we expect to mess up our source of livelihood? And nobody. I was on social media. I heard people discussing whether the journalist who went there to effect the citizen's arrest was right or wrong or whatever. That's sometimes I don't know the intensity of what happened for him to cause that citizen's arrest, but sometimes you get restless and you want something done. Sometimes you get restless and you want something done. Dr. King says something. He said, when we stop bending our backs for people to sit on, the day we decide to straighten up, that is the day something happens. So it gets to a time in everybody's life when you're fed up of bending your back. So you start to rise up. But I'm glad what he did was the right thing. He did not resort to violence. He did not do anything um, illegally. I don't know what happened, but what I saw on the video, I don't think he violated anybody's right. He ordered them to come with him to the police station, which I believe was the right thing to do. If they did something behind the scenes by hitting somebody or trying to injure somebody, I didn't see that. But what I saw on TV, I didn't think he did anything wrong. So what I mean by the day we decide to straighten our backs does not mean the day we decide to be violent, but the day we decide to be law-abiding citizens and make sure the law works, because that is the only way we can create a civic and a progressive society. All right, Prof.
You did a very good job by starting this conversation saying that we shouldn't be emotional. Uh, because professionally, I am a natural resource manager. That's what I did my first degree in. And certain things were drummed so much into us that it looks surreal when I look at the things that are going on in Ghana right now. Look, I grew up in the village, and before you start traveling around the world, you think it is only in your community that certain things are common. Um, Anybody who comes from the Kumawu area knows that water is a very serious issue, especially in the dry season. A lot of the rivers dry up. We have to dig up shallow wells within the riverbed in order to get water. That kind of water was dirty. We had to strain them. We have to let them sit and settle the dust and other impurities underneath it. There was a lot of waterborne diseases as I was growing up. I know we called it in Suchain. You go at let's say 1 a.m. into the stream. It is coming drifts, and you sit there. We have buckets lined up, and you sit there for hours, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, and you get one bucket. And I'm talking about you walking 45 minutes to an hour downhill to go to the stream and wait 2 or 3 hours to fetch water and bring it back. And you find out that everywhere in this world, communities are built around access to water bodies. So all the villages, big towns from Mesopotamia to modern civilization were built around rivers and water bodies because water is life. So our ancestors used deities to talk to us about the need to preserve our water body. They were considered gods. There were days we couldn't go into the river to fetch anything, to fish or do anything of that sort. There were, I remember coming to KNUST to do natural resources and being told that even though our elders said you could not farm like 1 mile near the rivers, and it's because the gods of the rivers, that's their habitation, they use all other folklore to let us not farm around the river. It was a buffer zone. And our professors were trying to explain to us how our cultural and indigenous knowledge used to preserve our land. And we are trying to look at them as if they were the days of old. They were not really intelligent or educated, but they were far more educated than we are. And today, what do we see? People are actually dredging the riverbed in search of gold. And I want to come back to that issue you talked about about the Chinese. Do we think we are the only country with gold? Are we the only country that has gold? Are we really the only country with gold? I, you don't think Australia has gold? Canada? Why doesn't the Chinese go there and do what they do in Ghana? Look, I was having this conversation with some of my friends. Me being somebody professionally associated with environmental issues, they didn't understand why the the Australians treat live plants and animals being brought into their country as if you are bringing in contraband, like cocaine or hard drugs. And I was like, because you're going to uh, destroy their environment. They have a peculiar ecosystem that is totally different from other mainland, simply because there are indigenous species over there that is not found anywhere in the world. And over the eons, nature has made it possible for animals and plants to coexist with their uh, environment in a way that actually creates an equilibrium. And if you introduce any new species that do not have uh, competitors or predators within that particular environment, you are going to destroy the whole ecosystem. It's a cascade effect. Once one organism is removed completely, you don't know how it affects the balance within the ecosystem. And that's why the Australians will not allow you to bring any plant or animal into their country. They have benefited from years of history and research, and they know that they need to protect their environment. So they are not going to allow you. They will actually put you in jail. They have a list of things you cannot bring into their country. And if you try bringing them in, they are going to put you in jail. So we can sit here and talk about the Chinese. But I love what the Chinese ambassador said. Who gave them the visa? Who introduced them to the land? It was a blatant insult. You can take it whatever way you want to look at it. But if somebody asks you, oh, you are complaining about my people, who gave them the visa? How did they get to know there is a forest in Asankrahira if your people did not take them there? It is your people who have the concession to mine. How is it that a Chinese is doing the mining? Do you think you can go to China and plant corn in China as a farmer? You can't. If you were wondering, they will not allow you anywhere near their land. Come, buy, and leave. So we can blame other people, we can say whatever, but if you see, like I'm going to say again, thank you for saying we should not be emotional about today because I would have gone there. If you see the rivers flowing today, they are not rivers. They are just muddy water going into our estuary. Plants and animals that live in the water need a certain amount of clarity, a certain amount of sun penetration in order to survive. We are killing every living creature within our water body. I will not even go into the arsenic and the other heavy metals that they are using to mine. I'm just talking about just the mud and the dirt that goes in there. And we are forgetting that the Ghana Water and Sewerage Company source drinking water from these water bodies, and they have to clean it up. Someone has projected that in about 20, 25 years, Ghana will have to import drinking water because of this. And it is not because we have gold. Other people have gold. It's because we are mining it the wrong way. Knowledge abound. Our forefathers have been mining gold for eons. That's why Ghana is called the Gold Coast. It is not that we have not been mining, but we have not been mining it this way. And you want to tell me we have leaders and they don't see this? You want to tell me nobody knows what is going on? Nana, posterity is going to judge us all. Posterity is going to judge us all. Because the promise of life or the promise of the cycle of life is that you leave your society better than you found it so that you can bequeath it as what it should be to your progeny. That's what it is. And like I said, we can go back to our idioms. We can go back to our wise sayings. We can go back to our folk tales, and we can find inspiration about what needs to be done. But are we willing? Do we have the political will? Do we have the leadership will? Do we have the inspiration to actually do this? And this guy could go there and do a citizen arrest of one or two people. How much leverage does he have in this fight? Remember, yes, the last week when we were discussing this issue, I told you the fact that you have power does not mean you have the authority to do what you do or the ability to actually, on a large scale, enforce the rules. And that's the reason why people become apathetic, people give up, simply because how much good can one individual do? Unless all of us start banding together and doing it as a collective. Because I don't think the people who are doing this galamsey are more than the spectators. Neither do I think the leaders who are allowing this to go on are more than the people who are going to suffer the consequences. But it is an issue of leverage. Because what this guy can do, there's somebody within the same community who can do that a million times who is refusing to do it. So I love the fact that he has started calling out names, which is what we should all be doing. And we need our journalists to start investigating the companies and the leases that they have and bringing their names to bear. To me, this issue is an issue of national importance, national prominence, and it should not be left to individuals to fight this fight. It should not be left to individuals to fight it. This is just too important for an individual to stake his life on. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. So This brings me to, again, leadership. When remember last week I was talking about the fact that I posted something on Facebook about the fact that leadership is not about having a good heart, but building the capacity to do the right thing. And this brings me to um, this particular issue. You see, leadership is futuristic. Leadership builds, and we all know that if you're building something, you have to have your foundation. And then you have to have your foundational pillars. You have to have your main frame and all that stuff. And that is how leadership works. So when somebody is serving, they are not looking at just the immediate impact. Yes, the immediate impact, people want to find gold. It probably might be a source of income to some people within that community. And to some extent, people have to survive. People have to live, which is natural. But the leader would look into the future and see, like you said, what do we have to leave for posterity? And so if my, my whole thing is the land is all you have. Without the land, you have no nation. Without the land, you have no nation. The land is all you have. You grow on the land. You get your water from the land. You get your livelihood from the land. So that is all you have. So if you cannot see beyond the needs of today and preserve that which you have, which is all you have, then I'm sorry. I can't bring myself to calling you a leader. I can't. Because I'm not seeing leadership right there. You see, it is like somebody who has a grain of corn and wants to consume everything today and will not think about tomorrow. Will not think about, let me consume a little today. Let me plant some so I can get abundance in the future. So leadership does not think about now alone. The now is important, but it's not as important as the future. So we need our kings, we need community, the people within the communities to rise up and start doing something about this epidemic. Because, like you said, we are going to lose the land and even lose our source of water in the near future. And we would have to start importing water from outside. And do we even understand the dynamics of putting our lives in the hands of another country, providing you water? Do we understand the dynamics of that? Do we even understand the dynamics of important food from outside? Do we understand the dynamics of that? So it's basically We are giving out our lands, our future, and all we have away. That's basically what we're doing. Because if we cannot generate our own water to survive, and we would have to depend on importing, or would have to depend on other countries, what spine do you have to negotiate? I mean, what spine do you have to negotiate? If we cannot farm on our lands, if we cannot grow our own food, and we would have to import, look at what is happening in Africa. The whole of the African continent is held up to ransom because of some little war going on in Russia and Ukraine. I mean, that is why I believe in the literature I read. That if you gain understanding, you should be creative. And they have no clue, they have no understanding of what they are doing.
You see, and I have this mate from high school who was domiciled in the United States for about 20 years. He decided to go back and farm, and he's been in Ghana for the past 5 to 10 years. And we were having a discussion on our classroom board, and we were talking about this issue of leadership. And the rains were very late in coming this year, so there was the palpable sense of food shortage if the rains don't come as they usually do. So today I had to talk to him, and he told me that the rains actually did come, and now the fear is like subsided. But the problem it has created is that down south, I mean, those up in the north, they are okay because the Galamsey is not as rampant as it is in the south. But he said that once it started raining and it didn't stop, the rain off wash all these chemicals onto people's farms and it's destroying them in the south. You see, these are some of the side effects that we've not thought about. But I want to sort of harp on the issue of leadership. You see, I was in Ghana for 5 years, and the narrative was that the government has the political government, the elite political government has one way or another infiltrated the local chieftain system and has made it practically useless because the chiefs and elders of our people are in the pockets of our politicians, and the politicians can do whatever they want. That's number one. Number two, there are very few local traditional leaders who eschew any form of contact with the political elite because they don't trust them and it is mutual. And once you do not allow the political elite to do whatever they want, it means they cut you off from developmental projects and things that can modernize and improve your society. And as a result, they will be able to sort of squeeze these traditional leaders into compliance. Why am I saying this? Before the death of the late Offenso, this is things that keep repeating. He never allowed any galamsey within his enclave. And the moment he died, you should go and look at the office. Whoever was put there as the new chief, I don't know if he has some contracts with the political elite or whatever. Galamsey has become the number one issue within the Ofin Basin 3, 4 years after the death of the paramount chief, who said no. And as we speak, nobody dares go to Mampong and do galamsey, because the Mamponhene has stated categorically that nobody is allowed to do that on his land. So you don't hear about Mampon being an enclave for galamsey. So why is it that places like Konongo, Tepa, Ofinso, Tamara Boy, Inchi, and all these places, why is it that it is the same traditional rulers that are in these areas, and this is what is going on? And that's why I talk about the good effects of leverage and the good effects of leadership. Because if somebody claims to be a leader and these things are happening within his jurisdiction, then it is really, really difficult for me to understand what you are there for as a leader. You know, and there are people who can say this thing should stop today and it will stop. All the way up to His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I remember when he was in opposition and the sort of things that he said about Galamsey. And I'm so disappointed to say that that is not what we are seeing. You see, you don't have to dislike somebody in order to go against him or say the truth to him. The rivers that are flowing in Ghana shows exactly the state of affairs. We know for a fact when there was no Galamsey how these rivers looked, smelled, and felt. People have taken their times and used drones to map out the river basins of Ghana and the effect this Galamsey is having even on the estuary. We have not done in-depth research as to the flora and fauna within these water bodies and the effect these Galamsey activities are having on them. And every day, the pits bury people alive. And we are doing nothing about it. They are dredging within the riverbed. Within the riverbed. Nti panyin ni fie. There's no adult in the room. Is that what they are saying?
You see, I'm gonna put majority of the blame also at the doorsteps of the kings. Ghana is a place where the land is owned by the kingdoms. It is not by the government. So the kings would have that authority to say, like you're saying, that one of the kings decided that nobody's going to mine on my land. Don't you think some people had licenses and concessions within that community where the king does not want anybody to mine, and yet they couldn't mine because the king wouldn't
Yeah.
allow them?
The kings and the chiefs, they have a lot of leverage. As to whether they are using it properly, it's a different ballgame.
You see, I'm not even looking at the government in this case. I'm looking at the kings. Because the government has no hand in making you a king. The government has no hand. It's a family issue. And you own the land. The land is your property. And as a king, you are a caretaker of the land. You are a custodian of the land, which you have to develop it. You see, the attitude of leadership is that anything entrusted in your care, you develop that and bequeath it to posterity. That is an attitude, the attitude of a leader. You don't just give. I was telling somebody, I know we don't discuss religious issues or faith issues here, but I was telling somebody somebody was asking a question. Why would the parable Jesus gave about the talent, why would the master take the one from the one who did not do nothing with the talent? He didn't do nothing with the talent. And he made sure he preserved the talent as it was and gave it back to the master. But yet, he still did not please the master. Why? Because it was supposed to be developed. It was not supposed to be left untapped. It was a potential. It was not supposed to be left as potential by the return of the master. It was supposed to be left, or it was supposed to be developed into an actual and no longer potential. That is the concept of leadership. You tap potentials and transfer them or transcend them into actuals. You see, so the kings who own the land, it's been given to you by your gen. And you know, before you become a king, I didn't know about this until my dad died and we visited, and I had the opportunity, you know, my dad is from the royal home, so I had the opportunity of talking to some of these people. It's basically like a school. They school you of the ancestry properties, the pass down of the properties and every other tradition within the family. They school you from generation to generation to generation to generation. And that makes me understand now that the kings are no dummies.
They are not.
Because even
It,
for
it, it's,
some of us
it's
who
not.
think we've been to
It's
school, some of the things I forgot. But
it's not even
when
about.
you question the king, he's going to verbatim tell you the history and all that stuff from ages.
Nana, Nana, whenever you see them having disputes, even about the lineage and who cannot and who can be chief, it is because even within the royal family, certain individuals are groomed over the years. It's not a 5 month, a 6 month thing. People are groomed over the years to take over the throne. So you just come up and say, I want to be king. No, that's not how it works. So our kings and our queens, they are not dummies, as you are saying. So whenever they fail to act, it is because they have intentionally decided not to act. It's not because
And
they don't know.
that is wickedness. Because for
Exactly.
you knowing the history and the value of the land and the properties handed over to you as a custodian, and then you hand it down to the next generation dilapidated, handed down, beaten down, messed up, destroyed, and you die in dignity and in pride, knowing that you've created a mess. No, there's something wrong. There's something wrong upstairs. And
There
that is
has to
why,
be.
again, I go back to that literature. They don't have an understanding of their position, their role, their responsibilities. They have no clue. Because they said of David that he has served his generation. And so he can now rest in peace with his fathers. It means that
Exactly.
when you become a custodian and you do a good job, you get excited that you are leaving behind not just a tarted, a dilapidated, and a beaten down, what you call it, property, but you are living a developed, an uplifted property for generations to come. And that gives you peace. And I love that statement. He has served his generation, and now he can rest in peace with his fathers. How are these kings going to rest in peace when the time comes, when they meet their day, knowing that they've made a mess of the country? They've made a mess of the properties. They made a mess of the land. They made a mess of the rivers they were supposed to be take charge of. And if you have an understanding of your role as a custodian, you will never be in peace. You can only be in peace if you don't have an understanding. That is where your
Maybe they
conscience
don't.
does not prick you, because you don't understand your role. You don't understand your responsibilities as a custodian. Custodian means you are keeping whatever has been kept in your charge for posterity. And that is even the definition of the land in Ghana.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the definition of the
Inchuma.
land in Ghana.
Inchuma. Inti. Yeah. That's why I always say let's go back to our idioms, to our cultural references, to our proverbs, and to our folk tales.
And if I'm not wrong, I believe I was told that the land is the property, it's owned by our ancestors,
Yeah.
handed over to us as custodians to hand over to the next generation. And this is told to every king. Every king in Ghana is told this concept of the definition of land in Ghana. And I believe that is even part of the reasons, part of the presentation the Aborigines Right Protection Society presented to the Queen when the Queen wanted to take ownership of the lands in Ghana, then Gold
Yep.
Coast. They told them, we cannot allow you to do that because the land does not belong to us. We are just custodians. The owners of the land are dead. So we cannot just hand the land over to you because it does not belong to us. How can you give out something which does not belong to you? And this is the concept and the definition of land in Ghana. So I don't get it where this people, well, I get it now. They have no understanding of their
They have
roles
no
and their
understanding.
responsibilities
They really
as
do not have
kings
an
in
understanding.
Ghana.
Hmm.
Prof, your
Yeah,
final
our time is
statement,
up.
yep,
Look,
before we draw the curtains to a close.
look, I I applaud all those guys that have taken this fight individually. If it is possible, let's join together into a movement because individually there's not much leverage as to what can be done. And to those who are just not a part of the scourge that is going on, but are sitting on the fence, we are all going to get affected by what is happening because when we import water, believe me, you are going to feel it. And as our environment is degraded, the food that we are eating, the arsenic in it, the poisonous substances that are it is for our children. You think Ghana has problems now? Wait 20, 25 years from now. And all these people that are doing it, especially those who are older, they will be gone. You will be the one affected. So once again, what kind of society are we building? Tomorrow is right now. Let's take notice. Thank you, Nana.
You're welcome. Important water is us handing our security over on a silver platter to anybody who can buy it. We want to take this opportunity to plead with the kings especially. Be custodians of the land. be custodians of the land. And we're pleading with the future kings, those who are in line waiting, please gain understanding. The good book says wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. But in all of your
All that
getting,
getting.
get
Yes.
understanding. On this note, we'd like to thank you very much for being a part of Analyze This today. We're going to continue this, the effect of galamsey on our water bodies and our land in Ghana next week, same time. My name is Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. and my co-pilot is.
Thank you so much.
See you again next week, same time. On this note, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.